Do you ever wonder what happened to him?
LeBron James.
Or them? Or him?
Let me see what you have. No!
I think about it at least once a week. Like, how are they doing? Did they get over the momentary fame, or is it their entire personality? Did they get stopped in the streets? Are people just constantly doing impressions of them? I can't imagine what it would be like to have the world's perception of who you are being based on a 15-second video. Like, I'm sorry to the LeBron James kid, but he will always be the LeBron James kid to me. I don't even know his real name, and I'll probably never bother to learn it. Oops. The desire to be known and recognized by others is a common part of the human experience, and usually we identify people by using outward factors like ethnicity, gender, and looks, and also things like job, family status, and accomplishments. But sometimes we can have our not-so-finest moments used as our key identifiers. Like to this one soccer team I played against as a kid, I was the defender that scored on our own net. It was an accident. To the barista at the coffee shop I was at last week, I was the customer who pulled the door instead of pushing it on my way out.
Oh, looks like you pushed.
And to most of you, sadly enough, I'm the girl from Red Deer. Actually, I'm probably just the pastor who dunks on Red Deer every time she preaches. On a more serious note, our identities are a crucial part to each of us. That's because our identity shapes the way we feel about ourselves. It brings about a sense of belonging and purpose. It helps us express who we believe ourselves to be, inwardly and outwardly. So imagine our identities then being shaped by the epic fail compilation of our own lives. That wouldn't be great. Yet this is such a common phenomenon. Many of us at times find ourselves holding the weight of the not so great things about us and making that the core of who we are. We can carry around shame over past mistakes, insecurities, and lies that people have placed on us, or we've come to believe about ourselves, and we allow those things to dictate our identity. And this is a problem because ultimately, it means those things, those negative things, aren't just shaping us on the inside, but they can also influence our actions and behaviors. Maybe the abuse or mistreatment you've suffered because of someone else's actions has led you to be closed off to deep relationships and being vulnerable with people. Maybe a crippling addiction has led you to isolate yourself from the people around you. The pattern we can see here is that the proximity of these hurts and wounds to our identity affects how we live our lives. Now you might be wondering, am I just supposed to get over everything I've been through? I can't just forget about the ways I've been hurt or have hurt other people or screwed up. There's no on and off switch for pain. I know. And trust me, if there was, I'd be the first one to use it. But that's not what I'm saying. Yes, the reality of sin entering the world means that we will likely feel the weight of our mistakes, our hurts, and our past throughout our lives here on earth. But the good news is that they don't have to be our identity. In fact, God can actually use all of the bad things we've done and gone through to strengthen us and give us hope. If there's one Bible hero who had every right to carry around the shame of her past, it would have been Rahab. In her debut to the Old Testament, she is introduced as a prostitute named Rahab. And this title seems to follow her later on when she's referenced to in parts of the New Testament. I couldn't even fathom having the deepest sin of my past being the way that people remember me for thousands of years. That's definitely not how I would want to be known because there's so much more to me than the things that I'm not proud of. And there's so much more to Rahab as well. Where we may initially see a woman with a troubling past, if we take a deeper look, we can see a courageous and heroic woman whose mistakes and sin are fully redeemed by God. Rahab's story is recounted in Joshua 2. In this chapter, a man named Joshua is leading the Israelite people to the land God promised them, now that his predecessor Moses had died. Here's what it says in the first 7 verses. Okay, here we go, Abby, you can do it. Then Joshua secretly sent out 2 spies from the Israelite camp at Acacia Grove. He instructed them, scout the land on the riverside of the Jordan, up a little more, okay, there's good. I actually am wondering.
Chapter 2. Rahab protects the spies. Then Joshua secretly sent out 2 spies from the Israelite camp at Acacia Grove. He instructed them, scout out the land on the other side of the Jordan River, especially around Jericho. So the 2 men set out and came to the house of a prostitute named Rahab and stayed there that night. But someone told the king of Jericho, some Israelites have come here tonight to spy out the land. So the king of Jericho sent orders to Rahab, bring out the men who have come into your house, for they have come here to spy out the whole land. Rahab had hidden the two men, but she replied, "Yes, the men were here earlier, but I didn't know where they were from. They left the town at dusk as the gates were about to close. I don't know where they went. If you hurry, you can probably catch up with them." Actually, she had taken them up to the roof and hidden them beneath bundles of flax she had laid out. So the king's men went looking for the spies along the road leading to the shallow crossings of the Jordan River. And as soon as the king's men had left, the gate of Jericho was shut.
Now, why does it matter that Rahab protected these spies? Well, on a practical level, her actions helped the spies gather information about the city of Jericho before an attempt to take over the land. It also affirmed God's promise that the Israelite people would gain victory over Canaanite nations. Because this woman, who would have been considered as an outcast and definitely not someone who would have had a significant role in the trajectory of history, because she was willing to risk everything and hide the spies, Israel would be reminded that God was with them and that they could trust him to follow through. And not only did she impact history for Israel, but also for herself and her own family. Here's what she says later in Joshua 2:12 and 13. "Now swear by me to the Lord that you will be kind to me and my family, since I have helped you. Give me some guarantee that when Jericho is conquered, you will let me live along with my father and mother, my brother and sisters, and all their families." Then the spies respond by saying, "We offer our own lives as a guarantee for your safety." The men agreed. "If you don't betray us, we will keep our promise and be kind to you when the Lord gives us the land." And that's exactly what happens. When the Israelites eventually attacked Jericho, Rahab and her family were spared and brought out of the city unharmed, while the rest of it was destroyed. And throughout the Bible, we can see the redemption of Rahab take place. In Hebrews 11:31, she is listed as a hero of the faith. It says, "It was by faith that Rahab the prostitute was not destroyed with the people in her city who refused to obey God, for she had given a friendly welcome to the spies." In James 2:25, her courage is highlighted. It says that she was known to be right with God by her actions when she hid those messengers and sent them safely away by a different road. And lastly, one of the coolest ways we see her redemption story played out is in Matthew 1, where her name is listed in the ancestry of Jesus. Not as Rahab the prostitute, but as Rahab. We all have things in our lives that we aren't proud of, but those things don't have to define us because our true identity comes from God. Because of him, we aren't defined by our past. Our identity is given to us by the God that redeems us.